Dunc Holder on a Tuesday, February 27th. Pelicans with another win, 6 in a row. Anthony Davis puts up half of a hundred, and now, as the headline of our show on NOLA.com on the website, do you think that Anthony Davis is a legitimate MVP candidate? We're going to discuss that in detail today. If you want to get involved in the conversation, 504-260-1280 is the number. Jeff went and saw it firsthand last night in the Smoothie King Center. Granted, it was those uber competitive Phoenix Suns.
Clyde was right.
Uber competitive.
I was thinking about Clyde as they made the comeback. I thought
as the
Clyde
Pelicans made the comeback?
He is going to sit over there in all of his glory if the Suns win this game. Thankfully, the Pelicans pulled through.
I agree.
And
I'm still sitting over here in glory because it still, technically, for the most part, was right.
How you were I'm not even going to get into that right now. I'm not even going to entertain that.
Don't even.
Yeah, let's not entertain the fact that we, as we said here at the last segment of the show, that regardless of the Phoenix Suns' record, they're still going to play like a decent enough team with quality players. Devin Booker played his tail off last night and met fans after the game was over, apparently. So shout out to him.
Well, he's a local guy, right? Local-ish. He was from Mississippi Moss Point,
yeah.
So
Yeah,
local-ish. You can make the hour and 30-minute drive from Moss Point.
Absolutely. But clearly
yes.
they were good.
But clearly they're not that good. They've lost 10 in a row and they're the worst team in the NBA.
Anthony Davis had to score 53 points.
Well, that's actually true. So he had to score that many to get them involved. Had 3 of their bigs foul out just trying to defend him. That's something I don't think I've ever seen before in the NBA. But look, monster game from Anthony Davis. You were at the Smoothie King Center last night, Jeff. The chance of MVP raining down. I know you just put up a column at NOLA.com. And Anthony Davis has been remarkable without DeMarcus Cousins. Basically, since DeMarcus said, Anthony, it's time to take over, he's taken over.
Yeah, I don't know how legitimate his chances are of winning the MVP. It's mainly a popularity contest. It almost always seems to go to the best player on the team that has the best record or second best record, and the Pelicans are 34-26. They'd have to make some kind of remarkable run, I think, get to maybe the number 3 seed to even have a chance. I was trying to think of this last night, guys, and maybe y'all can help me on this. I don't think any New Orleans athlete has ever won the MVP in any major sport. Like, I don't think we ever had an NBA MVP or NFL MVP. So what he'd be trying to do is unprecedented, but the way he's playing right now, he's certainly making a strong case, and he's undoubtedly playing better than anybody in the NBA. The numbers are astronomical. What I wrote today was we've almost become numb to the numbers, just like we do with Drew Brees when he puts up these 400-yard passing games and everybody just kind of yawns and you start taking it for granted. I think that's what's happening with Anthony Davis.
And you got to talk about the whole season being the MVP. And was Anthony Davis putting up big-time numbers before the injury of DeMarcus Cousins? Yes, but was it as regularly? No. And I think if you are judging that award, it's got to be over the 82-game season. And I'm almost wondering, and this probably isn't fair, but if DeMarcus Cousins was still there, would we be talking about Anthony Davis being a legitimate MVP candidate? I don't know, because DeMarcus Cousins would take some of the steam, and he's had these monster games as well. So it's almost like pick which side you want to be on. Regardless, they were getting it together when DeMarcus Cousins was on the court. Took a little dip for obvious reasons once he stepped off the court. Now they're putting it all together, 6 in a row. They're currently in the 5th spot in the Western Conference. They're slated above the Portland Trailblazers, even though they have the same record. And they are slated above 35. No, let's see. The Spurs have won their last game. Minnesota's won their last 2. So now they're in legitimate striking distance of either one of those teams. But, Jeff, as you always point out correctly, they're still 2 games from being out of the playoffs. So you need this surge from Anthony Davis and even Drew Holiday, who's been playing very well. I don't even know the string of 20-point games in a row he's had now.
Yeah, and Drew Holiday didn't even realize they'd moved up to 5th in the standings or whatever. He was kind of shocked at that. And I think the Pelicans' winning streak right now, I believe, is the longest since 2011, which is kind of amazing. It's the longest since AD has been on the team. He didn't even know that. And it's kind of come out of nowhere. They've won a bunch of overtime games. I mean, think about it, guys. I was looking at the standings this morning and looking at their winning streak. Remember the Brooklyn game where they almost squandered, was it a 33-point lead? Mm-hmm. And literally it was on the precipice of losing that game. I remember distinctly they ran a poor final second half-court set, and they didn't score, and it went to overtime, and AD was over on the bench kind of shaking his head. He looked very despondent and dispirited, and they pulled that game out in overtime, and they haven't lost since. But I think they were on the brink right there of maybe imploding because they'd lost 5 of 6, and they were getting ready to squander potentially the biggest lead in the history of the franchise. And they pulled it out, and now here they are.
Absolutely, here they are. And the Pelicans win 125-116 last night against the lowly Phoenix Suns. And it took a little while for the Pelicans to get going. We were talking about during the show yesterday that, and I even put it on Twitter around halftime, I saw this potentially as a trap game just because of the energy they had exerted against Milwaukee the day before. You're playing down to an opponent, and it looked like it in the first half, but you got to give Pelicans credit. They've been living dangerously. They've learned how to survive and win dangerously, even though the score looked bigger than what it was, 125-116. But that game, as the Pelicans uncharacteristically now are playing well in the third quarter. They outscore Phoenix 38-24 in the third quarter. But Phoenix kept it close, and the Pelicans had to make some big shots in the fourth quarter to kind of extend that lead and pick up the win.
And I'm wondering, we were talking before we went on the air. Look, it's a Monday night. It's not a sexy opponent. The Phoenix Suns lack star power other than Devin Booker. But, man, that was a small crowd. They announced the crowd at 14,000. It might have been 2/3 of that in actuality. And I'm wondering what it's going to take to get New Orleans on board. Are fans reticent, you think, because of the history of mediocrity, the lack of tradition and success? I don't know what it's going to take to get people out, because Anthony Davis is playing at a level that we've never seen in this city. I know there's old school fans that'll say Pistol Pete. They revere the halcyon days of Maravich, but he didn't put up numbers like this. No one has put up numbers like this, not Chris Paul, David West, no one in the history of the franchise. And it's incredible how well the team's playing around that. I think he has inspired his teammates and lit a fire into them, and now they're playing with confidence, and they feel like you said, Larry, I mean, they can get down 17, 20 points, and they feel like they can come back, and they've proven it.
And that's typically like Joe Average fan, me, even though I'm not really a fan, Joe Average, New Orleanian, I'd see them down 17 and I'd turn the thing off. Well, guess what? I'm not turning it off anymore because I've seen them make these surges. And you've seen earlier on in the season, even with Boogie, you would see them go down to a bad team and just lose to the bad team. You're starting to see, even when they're down, you see a confidence, even when at times, say, a Niko Mirotic isn't playing well, he's still defending and blocking shots and doing these things, and it helps. All these little things have helped. But, Jeff, to your point, why aren't fans still getting their butts in the seats? I think it goes hand in hand with the argument, why isn't Anthony Davis going to be a all-the-time talked about MVP candidate? Because they don't win enough. And that's it. They're number 2 in this market. They're always going to be number 2 in this market.
That's okay.
And 2 out of 2, I guess, is not bad. I mean,
there are larger cities than New Orleans that don't have an NBA franchise or have a really strong franchise other than maybe some bigger cities that have hockey or baseball or something. I mean, it's better that you have it than you don't. That's the thing that I think that's frustrating.
Well, I don't
about
think
New
there's
Orleans.
an argument there.
Yeah.
It's better than to have it than you don't. I'm just saying this is a Saints town. People invest their money in the Saints. If people have disposable income and they're sports fans, they're probably going to be more diehard Saints fans than Pelicans fans. And the fact that the Saints have been to the mountaintop, I think that matters. The fact that they get to the playoffs and win,
But
starting back again this year, I think that matters. They haven't won consistently enough. The last time the Pelicans made the playoffs, they barely scratched in, got bounced immediately, and the coach got fired. I mean, you've got to earn the fans back into the building. They're starting to, but we still haven't gotten to the playoffs yet. Like, it's still a tenuous place for the Pelicans because they're either 2 games from the 3rd seed or 2 games from being out, and you don't know where they are right now. You could be hot. You could be hot with them right now, but who knows? In a month, they might fall apart and miss the playoffs.
Shoot, we're talking about next month. They're playing the Spurs on Wednesday.
The next 4 games because they're on the road,
Yeah.
even though they're against 3 of them are against teams they should beat.
Yeah, but I mean, the biggest thing is that they're going
Right.
to play the Spurs on Wednesday, and the Spurs are not number 3 in the Western Conference for nothing without Kawhi Leonard. So we're talking about a team that is still fantastically great. Who I think it was brought up last night on the radio. I think the Spurs, as a franchise, has not gotten the love that they deserve for being a quality team and a quality franchise for over 20 years, winning as many titles as they have, sight unseen, without major superstars like a LeBron James or whatever. But I think the thing that we try to do specifically when it comes to the Pelicans, and which I think we have to stop doing partially, is that I think you're right. Without consistent trips to the playoffs and consistent winning seasons, I can understand the argument of the Pelicans not maybe necessarily having the fan base, but to put them up against the Saints, who have been around and have been an institution in the city for over 50 years, is an unfair placement. For the amount of time that the Pelicans have been in the city, which is close to now 17 years, to put them up against a team that has 50 years, that plays 16 games a year, 8 at home, two more if you count the preseason, and then has just recently won the Super Bowl. Let's not pretend that the Saints from the 1980s until the early 2000s was some juggernaut that was beating the team. They were struggling to put butts in the seats too.
But they were the only game.
But they were the only game in town.
And
they were still the same
They
thing.
were starting to win.
They were starting to, but it wasn't consistent.
No.
We're still talking about 7 to 9 years and 4 wins and 5 wins and 6 wins. So I don't think that's partially fair, but I do think that you do have a point. Is that at some point the Pelicans are going to have to do a better job of, or hopefully this is the start of them making the playoffs. But to your fan point, this is something that I retweeted from Bomani Jones from ESPN a few days ago about fans. The biggest problem with fans is we tell them they're entitled to a winner when the most they're owed is a good time. We act like a good time is only possible with a contender. Fix that, and we have a healthier culture around sports. And that, for me, highlights the largest problem around not just sports as a whole, but specifically towards sports, where people feel like the only way, collegiate number 1, and then the NBA, and then what we're talking about number 2, specifically that fans have the entitlement aspect of believing that the only way that they can go and watch and support a team is if they have a LeBron James, a Drew Brees, a Tom Brady, Alex Bregman, whatever. Like, that's the only way you can support a team. And that's not what sports is about. Sports is entertainment. You are going there to be entertained. You're going there to watch something. The fact that you have a winner or need to have a winner to enjoy it is the exact problem with sports and why.
Take a breath, dude. Take a breath. You're going to be all right?
Whew, yeah, I'm good.
Well, I'm going to revisit that.
They got to win.
Right.
Yeah, they have to win, but like, it's not just about the winning. You're going there to take part in an event.
It's kind of about the winning.
All right, let's take a
Let's
break
take a break.
here
Come back.
because that's cute and fine in dreamland, but that's not reality. And in a perfect world where there's sunshines and rainbows, that's cool. But no, people aren't spending their money on losers. They'll be entertained with something else. They'll go to the movies. That's an
right, too.
entertainment, and they'll win it. So I think that's part of it. So we'll get into that conversation. We'll also hear from NFL Network draft guru Mike Mayock. He had a marathon conference call leading up to the NFL Scouting Combine. Lots of good tidbits. And he's got an eye on a certain quarterback that Jeff likes, maybe pegging him to the Saints. Well, Mike doesn't peg them, but one of his colleagues actually does in his latest mock draft. So we'll talk about that, and we'll get involved. Your phone calls 504-260-1280. LSU also responds to a certain Yahoo Sports article about basketball recruiting. We will touch on that as well. So come on back. Sports 1280, NOLA.com, and the iHeartRadio app. We're Dunc Holder.